Hello everyone and welcome to Excel at Learning's first open workshop or open class. We are so excited to be sharing this new series of projects with you, and we hope that you really enjoy it because we have a couple more workshops lined up in the next few weeks. So we're hoping that you stick around to participate in those ones as well. Just a quick note before we start off with our workshop for today is that for each workshop, the instructor that will be teaching will also be available to answer your questions, whether it's a YouTube Live or a YouTube Premiere. All you need to do is just submit your question in the comments box and we will be sure to respond to it right away, whether the class is live or not. Anyways, if you want to submit your answers to us via email as well, then feel free to. We will definitely put our email address in the description box. So if you want to submit any practice problems or any answers that we can go over, definitely feel free to. And we'll check them over and give them back to you in a couple of days after you submit it. So without further ado, let's look at our quick mental math workshop. This workshop is suitable for all age groups, and I know that we're starting off with two-digit number multiplication, but this is mostly for addition and subtraction. So all you need is a basic knowledge of addition and subtraction, and you'll be set to go with this workshop. So let's get started. Just to warm up our brains a little bit and enter the realm of math, let's do some two-digit number multiplication by 11. Now, this might sound a little bit tough or a little bit tricky, but these problems are actually quite fun and quite easy to do. So I have a series of problems here for this section, so let's just go over them. And feel free to work along with me. If you need to pause the video and then check back later for an answer, you can also do that as well. So problem number 1, 22 times 11. Now the strategy here is that we are going to be using addition. So what we do in these types of problems is we take, just a second. Okay, so we take whatever we're multiplying by 11 and we add its two digits together. So in this case, it's going to be 2 plus 2, which is pretty easy. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. And then our next step is going to be, we're going to add this number that we found and put it in the middle of these two digits right here. So then our final answer will be 242 is equal to 22 times 11. And it's as simple as that. 242 is your answer. If you want to plug this into your calculator and check if it's correct, feel free to. So let's move on to problem number 2, 35 times 11. We're going to apply the same strategy here. So first, we're going to do 5 plus 3. Remember, we take these two digits and add them together. 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. And if you think you know what the next step is, pause the video, write down your answer, and check to see if it's correct. The next step we're going to do is we're going to just plug in the 8 in between 5 and 3. And 385 is our final answer of 35 times 11. It's very simple. So problem number 3, 58 times 11. If you think you know what to do, go ahead and pause the video. I'm also going to solve this in my head. And let's continue on. So this one looks a little bit different. So obviously 5 plus 8 is 13. Now if you put 5138 as your answer, that's a good guess, but not quite there. If you have a sum of these two digits that is more than 9, so if it's a double-digit sum, then we're going to apply a different tactic. So our second step, we recognize that 5138 is not the answer to 58 times 11. So then our third step is going to be simply adding that first digit we get to the first digit of our two-digit number. So for example, if I got the answer as 2, 3, well, that would be a little bit weird. So 2, 1, 4, 3. I don't know. This is probably not correct, but anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this, the first 1 to the 2, and my final answer is going to be 343. If that were the case. I know that this isn't a perfect example, but if we're looking at a number like 5138, what we're going to do is we're just going to add the 1 to the 5 so that we get 638. And 638 is indeed our final answer. And then problem number 4 is almost the same tactic we're going to use. So if you think you can solve it, go ahead and try. But I'm also going to walk through this. So 88 times 11, step 1 is to add 8 plus 8, which is 16. And then we know that 8168 is not equal to 88 times 11. So we add that 1 to the 8, and we get 968, which is our final answer. Now, if you want to try a couple more problems, I definitely recommend attempting this set of problems if you're still having a little trouble with this 2-digit number times 11. So if you want to, you can pause the video and take a screenshot of these problems, finish these problems, and then email or put them in the comments box when you're done with these problems. But if not, let's move on to 2-digit addition. So 2-digit addition. I know this might sound a little bit tricky as well, but the strategy for this one is also quite easy. So problem number 1, 52 plus 33. Our step 1 is going to be setting up our problem in the form of an addition bar. So we do 52 plus 33. And here what I did was that I separated 33 into 30 plus 3. So you'll see how handy this is when we come to step 2. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 52 and 30. Because now that we've separated 33 into 30 plus 3, it's much easier to do the problem. So step 1 is going to be 52 plus 30. And this is a super easy step because all we do is add the 5 and the 3, and then we just attach the 2 at the end. So let's move on to step 3. Step 3, now we've gotten this answer of 82. So we just build on from there. So we take our 82, and remember how we still have this 3 left over from our 30 plus 3. We just attach that here and add it in. So we get 82 plus 3 is equal to 85. And 85 is going to be your final answer for 52 plus 33. Now, I know that this problem is really easy and you don't have to borrow any numbers or carry over any numbers. So if you want to do it another way, you can just think of doing last 2 digits. So 3 plus 2, 5, and 5 plus 3, 8. If this problem was easier for you and you find that solving it this way is a little bit longer than solving it that way, but for some people, visualizing is a little bit harder, so breaking it up into parts might be a little bit easier. So let's continue on with problem number 2, 68 plus 45. So the first step we did, like in problem number 1, is set it up like this. For this one, I'm going to do 40 plus 5 for my second number, because that's just an easy way to do it for me. Step 2, I'm going to do my 68 plus my 40 as my first step. So 68 plus 40, all you do is you add the 8 back here, and then you do the 6 plus 4, which is 10. So that's an easy way. And step 3 is going to be whatever we got from here, which is 108, plus our remainder that we didn't add yet, which is 5. So 108 plus 5 is 113, and that's your final answer. Alrighty, so problem number 3, 95 plus 32. So we're going to set this up with 95 plus 32. I separated my 32 into 30 and 2. Pretty self-explanatory, that step. Step number 2, I'm going to do my 95 plus my 30 first. just like this. So I have 95 plus 30. All I need to do is attach the 5 at the end because we have a 0 here. And then the second step that I need to do is do 9 plus 3, which is 12. So my answer that I'm left with in the first part is 125. So I'm going to highlight that, 125. And then my third step is going to be 125 plus 2, because I had my plus 2 left over from up here. So I do 125 plus 2 is 127. Now you might be thinking we're doing all of this quote mental math on paper. So how would we do it in our heads? I know that right now we're doing it on paper just to show you how the parts are broken down. But this comes with practice. So as much as you practice, you're going to get better at it. So if you want to improve, please, please, please do the try it questions, and you can submit these answers to us. I'll give you a second to look at these questions, maybe write a couple of them down and try solving it in your head. But if you're set to go, or if you want to solve them later, then take a screenshot and you can email your answers to us. Alrighty, so 3-digit addition. 3-digit addition, I know this is one step harder or one level harder than 2-digit addition. So let's try our best to use our mental math powers in this. So problem number 1, 538 plus 327. Same first step as what we've been doing. We're going to set up our problem like this. I'm going to divide my 327 into 300 plus 20 plus 7. So I have my hundreds, my tens, and my ones right here. Now, my next step is going to be 538. So I take my first number here and add it to my 300 at first. So 538 plus 300. All I need to do is do the 5 plus 3 because since I have 2 zeros back here, I can just plug in or attach my 38 back here. So 5 plus 3 is 8. I got 838. And then my third step is I'm going to take whatever I was left with, so 838, and I'm going to add one more 20. So 838 plus 20. Now all I need to do is add the 3 and the 2 because I have a 0 back here and I don't have a place here. So just add 3 plus 2 and replace that 3 with a 5, so 858. Here's my next step. I'm going to do 858 plus my final 7 back here. So 858 plus 7. Remember, 8 plus 7 is 15, so you have to carry over that 1 on top of the 5, so it becomes 16. Or 6, sorry, my bad. This is 15, and then you carry over the 1, so that 1 plus 5 is 6. Awesome. So that problem was a little bit harder than what we've been doing. So let's continue and look at this other problem so that we can get a little more practice in. And remember that these workshops and classes are all about practice and learning new things. So don't feel afraid if it's out of your comfort zone or if it's something that you don't know yet, because obviously we're here to help each other and we're here to make you a little bit better at these sorts of things that aren't currently your strong suit. So problem number 2, 856 plus 453. Step 1, we're going to set it up like we've always been doing. 400 plus 50 plus 3. So again, I've got my hundreds, my tens, and my ones. Problem number 2 is going to be my addition of 856 and my 400, so 856 plus 400. I don't need to do anything with the 5 and the 6 because I have 2 zeros back here, so all I do is plug these 2 in at the back. The only thing I need to do is 8 plus 4, and 8 plus 4 is 12. Easy as that. My problem, or step number 3, is going to be taking whatever I have here, so 1256, attaching it over here in the front, and then adding another 50. that we haven't added yet. So 1256 plus 50. I don't need to do anything with the 6, so I just add the 6 back here. I do need to do something with the 5, so I add 5 plus 5, which is equal to 10. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky. You have to carry over the 1 so that it comes over the 2. And then 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. And then after that, we don't have to do anything with the 1 because that's where the carrying over the number ends. And we just attach the 1 at the front. But there's one more step because we still haven't added this final 3 back here. So we take whatever we're left with from step number 3. So 1306 plus our 3 that we have from up here. So 1306 plus 3, all we need to do is add the 6 and the 9. I mean the 6 and the 3 so that it becomes 9. So our final answer is 1309. Now that may seem a little bit hard at first, but like I said before, practice will make you so much better at this. And right now we're doing it on paper, but I definitely encourage you to try and do these in your head if you can. And then check back for your answer to see if you're correct, of course. So problem number 3, 759 plus 496. Step 1, we're going to set it up like we've always done. And in this case, I find that instead of doing 400 plus 90 plus 6, since 496 is very close to 500, I'd much rather do 500 minus 4 as my subtraction or my sum for 496 to make it a little bit simpler. So let's see how this would work out. So I start off with my 759, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my 500. And in this case, it's very important to look at the plus sign here because we're going to distribute that plus sign so it becomes plus 500 minus 4. And eventually you're going to do plus 500 minus 4 because the plus sign distributes and equals a minus 4. So anyways, 759 plus 500. I don't need to do anything with the 59, so I just attach it at the back. But I do need to do something with the 7 and the 5. So 7 plus 5 is 12, and I attach that in the front. Now I'm going to take whatever I have left, so 1259. And remember how I said we need to do minus 4 in this case? We're just going to attach our minus 4. And then 1259 minus 4, the only thing I need to do is 9 minus 4, which equals to 5. And then I just attach the rest of this at the front. So 1255 is our final answer. And again, we have a couple of practice problems for you. So feel free to take a screenshot of these if you want a little bit of extra practice. Or I can give you a couple minutes to think about it. So pause the video right now if you want to solve these problems, and then submit your answers into the comment box. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to 2-digit subtraction. Guys, we're so close to being done. We only have about 6 problems left. So 2-digit subtraction. Problem number 1 is 86 minus 29. So let's take a look at this problem. Here you're going to see that I have version 1 and version 2 because there are 2 ways to do this. So version 1 is going to be 86 minus 29. And the way that I'm going to do it is 20 plus 9. But there's also another way to do it. So whichever one you find is more comfortable, you can just stick with that. So 86 minus 29, and we have 20 plus 9. As we've always been doing, our second step is going to be 86 from here minus our 20. So remember how I said to pay attention to this negative sign. So our negative sign is going to be minus 20 plus 9. We're going to distribute, and we get minus 20 minus 9. So remember, our first step is going to be minus 20, and then our step after that is going to be minus 9. So 86 minus 20, I don't need to do anything with the 6, so I just attach it at the end. But I do need to do something with the 8 and the 2. So 8 minus 2 is equal to 6. So we're left with 66 after step number 2. So step number 3, I'm going to attach that 66, and I'm going to do my minus 9, like I said over here. Or you can look over here. So my minus 9, 66 minus 9, here's where you're going to need to do a little bit of carrying over. So remember that 16 minus 9 is 17. So we have 17 over here. And then we take over the 1, and 6 minus 1 is 5. So that's just a super easy way. 16 minus 9 is 7. I'm so sorry about that. And remember, we take over the 1 from here, and so our 6 becomes 5. So 57 will be our final answer. Awesome. Okay. So let's move on to version 2. All this math is getting me a little bit confused, so just bear with me. I'm sure that we'll all be clear on these topics by the end of the workshop. So our first step for version 2 is going to be setting up our problem like we've done. But instead of doing something like this addition over here, 20 plus 9, I'm going to do a subtraction. So I see that 29 is very, very close to 30, and it might just be easier to do 30 minus 1. But remember, pay attention to this minus sign, because it's going to be minus 30 minus 1. So we're going to subtract 30 and then add 1 back. So here's going to be our second step, and here's our third step. So let's look. Step number 2 is going to be 86 minus 30. Like I said over here, our first step is going to be minus 30. Now we don't have to do anything with the 6, so I just plug it back in. 8 minus 3 is 5, so 56. And then here is where it might get a little bit confusing. So when we subtracted the 30, we subtracted 1 too much. Because remember, 30 is 1 more than 29, and instead of subtracting 29, we subtracted 30. So now we need to add 1 back. So adding 1 back is just plus 1. So 56 plus 1 is equal to 57. And that's your final answer. You can compare, these two answers are the same, so either way works. So let's move on to problem number 2, 81 minus 37. Our first step is going to be setting up the problem like we've always done. And you see that in this problem, I'm using the subtraction technique, so 40 minus 3. So really quickly, I'm going to remember that my sign is like this, 40 minus 3. So I'm going to be subtracting 40 and adding 3. So let's look at our step number 2. Step number 2 is 81 minus 40. Like I said over here, step 1 is adding minus 40, and step 2 is plus 3. So 81 minus 40, I don't have to do anything with the 1, so I just add it back here. 8 minus 4 is 4. And then we take our 41 here. And our next step is to add that 3, or add that 3 from here. So we add that 3 because we subtracted 3 too much, so now we add our 3 back. And our final answer is 44, right here. Okay, problem number 3, 129 minus 75. So let's look at our steps here. Our first step is going to be setting up the problem. And in this one, you're going to see that I have done the addition technique. So either one works, but if it's something that's very close to another number, like 29, then the subtraction technique would very much work better than the addition technique. Okay, so let us see what we have here. So 129 minus 75. 75 is split into 70 and 5. Step number 2, 129 minus 70. So right here. And remember, minus 70 plus 5. So we're going to do minus 70 minus 5. This is our step 2, and this is our step 3. 129 minus 70, I don't need to do anything with the 9, so I plug it back in here. And here's where I need to do a little bit of carrying over. So since the 2 is smaller than the 7, I make the 2 into a 12, cancel out the 1, and 12 minus 7 is equal to 5, so 59. And for our step number 3, here is what we have. We take our 59 from here, plug it in, and our step number 3 is going to be a minus 5 because we subtracted 5 less when we did our minus 70, so we still have to subtract 5. So 59 minus 5 is equal to 54. As simple as that. And again, here are some practice problems. So pause the video right now, take a screenshot, and submit your answers into us, into the comment box or into our email address. Awesome. So we are finally on our last section of the workshop, so 3-digit subtraction. I have 3 problems for you here because 3-digit subtraction is a little bit harder than the previous strategies that we've used. So problem number 1, 958 minus 417. Here is what we are going to do. We are going to set our problem up like this, and we can do addition or subtraction techniques like we've looked at in the past. So problem number 1, I separated my 417 into 400 plus 10 plus 7. So I've got my hundreds, my tens, and my ones. Awesome. So step number 2. First step I'm going to do is do 958 minus 400. As easy as that. And you can check off your 400 after you've used it. So I've used my 400. I don't need to do anything with the 58 because it's all zeros here. So I plug that in right here. And I do 9 minus 4, which is equal to 5. So 558. Moving on, step number 3. I'm going to take whatever I have from step 2, put it in here, and there's just a 1 here. Okay, anyways, 558 minus 10. So now we have used our 10, so I'm going to check that off. So 558 minus 10, I don't need to do anything with the 8. I just bring that here, and I don't need to do anything with the 5 because I'm simply subtracting 10. So 5 minus 1 is 4, and we just make it into 548. So that is our step 3 solution. And then we bring that back here to have a step 4 because we haven't used our 7 yet. But now we're going to use it. So we check that off. And we do 548 minus 7. And 548 minus 7 is 541. 8 minus 7 is 1. You don't need to do anything with the 54. So 541 is your answer. Okay, so problem number 2. We have 853 minus 692. Looks a little bit harder, but I'm sure we can get through it. So here is what I've set up. You're going to see that I have used the subtraction technique in this, 700 minus 8, because 692 is very close to 700, and it would have been a lot harder to do 600 plus 90 plus 2. So anyways, let's continue on to step 2. We have 853 minus 700. So we take our first number here, minus our 700, because remember we have minus 700 minus 8. So we're going to do minus 700 plus 8, because if we distribute this sign. So minus 700 plus 8. Our first step, like I said, 853 minus 700, we get 153. So then we're going to plug in our 153 here to do our second step, plus 8. And the reason why we do plus 8 is because we subtracted 8 too many. We were only supposed to subtract 692, but we subtracted 700. So we're going to add 8 back. And if you do this, you're going to do 8 plus 3 is 11, so you bring the 1 up here. So you have 11, and then 5 plus 1 is 6, and then you just add in the 1 from the beginning. And that is your answer for problem number 2. Finally, problem number 3, our last problem of the workshop, is 725 minus 468. So version 1 and version 2 are going to be using the different subtraction and addition strategies, so you can choose which one you like and then solve based off of that. So try to solve this in your head if you can. I'll give you a minute to do that, and I'll also try to do it in my head too. And then we'll come back and solve it together. Awesome. So I hope you've had time to think about this problem. If not, pause the video again and try to solve it. But we're going to get into our version 1 first. So version 1 is 725 minus 468. I'm using the addition formula or strategy in this one. So 400 plus 60 plus 8, which is a little bit extensive, but I'm sure that it works out just fine. It's a safe way to go. So then we look at step 2, 725 minus 400. This is our first step. So remember, if we have minus 400 plus 60 plus 8, we're going to get minus 400 minus 60 minus 8. So all of our steps are going to involve subtraction. So minus 400, the only thing we have to do in this one is subtract the 7 minus 4. So 7 minus 4 is 3, and we don't do anything with the 25 because we have zeros at the end. So 325 is your solution for step 2. Then for step 3, we take whatever we got from step 2 over here, and we move on to our next step, which is minus 60. So we already finished minus 400. I'm going to check that off. Minus 60, we're about to finish. I'll check it off. And for step number 3, all you need to do is do a simple carryover. So 12 minus 6. Because you can't do 2 minus 6, you can do 12 minus 6. So 2 minus 6, or 12 minus 6 is going to be 6. And you have to cut out the 3 and make it a 2 because we just borrowed a 1 from that first place. So you get 265. And you don't do anything with the 5 because there's a 0 at the end. Okay, step number 4, we're going to take whatever we got from step number 3, 265, and we still have one more step to go up here, so minus 8. Check that off because we're about to do it. 265 minus 8, you need to do a little bit of carryover, so 15, this turns into a 5. So 15 minus 8 is 7, and 5 minus, and this just turns into a 5. And the 2 is remaining as it was in the beginning. So 257 is how we got this. It involved definitely a lot of carrying over than I would have imagined. So let's look at version 2 to see if it is a little bit easier. So step number 1. Oh, sorry about that. Step number 1. 725 minus 468. So the way that I did this involves a little bit more of mental math. I needed to figure out what adds up to 468 so that it can equal 500. And the answer was 32 in this case. So 468 plus 32 is equal to 500. And the way that I figured this out, I'm just going to go a little bit into detail on this complement specifically. So 468 is it's very, very close to 470. And I know that 470 plus 30 is equal to 500. So if I subbed in 468 plus 30 is equal to 500, I actually don't get 500. I get 498, which means that I'm too short. I'm minus 2 numbers short. Which explains why, because 470 minus 468 is equal to 2. So the solution to this is 468 plus 32, because we can't change the 468 into 470 because we are given 468. But what we can do is change what we're adding to 468 so that it equals 500. So in summary, just try to find the closest 10. So for me, it was 470. And then out of my 470, I figured out that, 470 plus 30 is equal to 500. And then from that, I figured that if 470 minus 2 is equal to 268, then 468 plus 32, as seen here, must equal to 500. Anyways, that was a lot of talking. Let's get into our step number 2. So step number 2 is going to be our 725 minus 500. And I'm going to do our signs real quick. So minus 500 minus 32. Remember to look at this sign. Minus 500 and plus 32. Okay, so anyways, we just finished our minus 500, so I'm going to mark that off. So 725 minus 500. I don't need to do anything with the 25s because there's zeros here. So what I'm going to do is 7 minus 5, and that equals to 2. And then our step number 3 is going to be taking whatever we have from step number 2, which is 225, plus our 32 from up here. So plus 32. And this is just some simple addition. So 5 plus 2 is 7. 2 plus 3 is 5. And then you don't need to do anything with the 2. You just add it in there. Okay, so I know that this last problem was a little bit tricky, but you can see that we got 257 for both of them. As always, I really encourage you to do the try it section problems. But other than that, we don't have any more problems to go over. I'll do a quick overview of what we did in this workshop today. So quick mental math. We started off with 2-digit number times 11. This was a super fun strategy for me especially. And then 2-digit addition, super fun. Just need to make sure to separate the numbers out accordingly, like 30 plus 3. And here are the try it questions. 3-digit addition, separate the numbers out like so. You can even use subtraction techniques in 3-digit addition. 2-digit subtraction, you can use addition techniques or subtraction techniques. And finally, 3-digit subtraction, you can use addition techniques, you can use subtraction techniques. Just make sure to remember your basics of addition and subtraction, and you will be successful in any problem that you do. So that sums it up for today's workshop. I hope that you all have stuck through to the end, or you've learned something new. Either way, please give our channel a subscribe, and please like this video and share it with anyone who you think might be interested in this. Be on the lookout for our workshops coming out. We have one next weekend about calligraphy and writing techniques. So that one is going to be super fun for those artists out there. And we definitely encourage you to give our website a visit and follow our social media platforms, which are all going to be linked in our website. That's it for today. We'll see you.